Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad you're all here. I think there's a way that this is an important event because it features citizens willing to really put themselves forward for the common good. And all of the folks in the audience, the rest of us here, are here because of civic engagement, and it's important to us to be involved in our town government and our town life. So this really says something about our community. Thank you all for being here. A reminder to turn off your phone or whatever else you have that would make lots of noise that you might not intend. And I want to introduce the candidates. Starting on your right is Deborah Wright, Stan Talstra, Bonnie North, John Dunbar, and Jamie Barrick. And those 5 folks are all running for 2 one-year seats on the select board. And then Rick Cowan is running unopposed for a 3-year seat on the select board. So we're going to pay a little less attention to Rick tonight because he's not facing any opposition. Sorry.
We're not combative.
Yeah. So the way the program's going to work is there's going to be 2 minutes for each candidate to sort of give opening remarks or introduce themselves, however they want to use that time. And then there's 2 prepared questions that the candidates have already received, and they'll each have 2 minutes to answer each of those 2 questions. And again, that's where we're leaving Rick out. Just in the interest of time, we really want to focus our attention tonight on the 5 candidates from whom you'll have to pick, unfortunately, only 2. I was saying earlier this evening, I'm sorry we can't just say, oh, there's 5 new people want to be on the select board, let's just make it bigger. But it doesn't work that way. So we will have to choose when we go to the polls. After those 2 prepared questions are answered, there'll be a time for a few questions from the audience. And the way we're going to do that is to have you write the questions. And 2 people here, Barbara and Wayne, have cards and pens. And so if you don't have something to write with, just go to either one of them, get paper and pen, and write your question. Give it back to them or to Laurel, who's right here in the front row. And then we'll get the questions from her when that time comes later in the program. And unfortunately, there probably won't be time to answer all the questions that you have. I am planning to, whatever the candidates don't get to answer tonight, I want to read all the questions because I think it's important for all of us, the candidates and the public, to know what questions are on our minds. So we are hoping for that. The other thing is there's a clipboard going around. It's not so much about signing in, but there's a place there to check if you'd like to volunteer when we have our town meeting on Monday evening, April 1st, and then again vote. If you're interested in helping bring snacks to town meeting, that's going to get organized, and if you might be interested in offering rides to people that would have trouble getting to town meeting. We're going to try adding those 2 things this year. So there's a place on the clipboards that are, Wayne has a clipboard, and I think one's maybe going around, but especially use it to put your information down if you want to volunteer and check off in the columns for those 2 volunteer possibilities. All right, any questions before we get started? I mean, I have questions for these guys, but so. All right, so we're gonna, we'll start with just a chance for each person to introduce themselves. And I have here the order figured out. So we're gonna start, the order will change each time, but we're gonna start the introductions with Rick and then just work our way down the row. So again, Rick Cowan, you get to introduce yourself.
Thank you. I live in Cambridgeport, and I'm a 3-year veteran of the Select Board. And it has been a tremendous experience for me participating in local government. And I've got, at some point I'll tell you about my goals if I'm given that amount of time.
Each person will have 2 minutes.
Okay.
So, and Laura will call
Right
some.
on timing.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Conference is running.
Should have said that ahead.
All right. All right. So I worked in the independent school world for most of my career, and as a headmaster and admission director and other. Oh, sorry. Sure. I worked in the independent school world for much of my career. Even louder. Okay. And I'm retired, and I live with my wife, Lois, way out there in Cambridgeport. And I don't know what else to tell you. When we get around to individual questions, I'm glad to speak to both the questions. So I'll pass it on.
Okay, you still have another minute, Sam.
All right, I'll bank that minute.
I'll take 15 seconds.
Are you ready for switch over?
All right. So good evening. I want to thank everyone for putting the forum together tonight, Fact TV, for filming tonight, as well as the audience. I feel one of the most important things in a community is for the community to have the ability and willingness to be involved as well as informed. My name is Jamie Barrick, and I'm a resident of the town of Rockingham and Village of Bellows Falls. I'm a native Vermonter from the Northeast Kingdom. I've called this special and unique and historic community my home for nearly 34 years. I enjoy the great history that our community has. I enjoy the outdoors, especially making and watching things grow. I enjoy building things and anything mechanical. I also love animals, particularly my dog, Arlo Clay. So my work career and background are in construction and electric generation, which has afforded me the opportunity to travel all across the United States, Canada, as well as a 6.5-month stay in Cape Town, South Africa. I've got over 38 years experience in construction, including building, road construction, project coordination, project management, oversight, as well as engineering. I've been involved and participated in town and village politics for nearly 20 years, and I'm running for one of the 11-month select board seats for a few reasons. To perform my civic duty and serve the community as a whole, to support the transformation of our select board into a more inviting, open, and transparent forum where people want to participate, be engaged, respected, and listened to use my background and experience to support the board and community to be more proactive versus reactive regarding current and future project readiness. I am concerned with individuals and families of all ages and sizes regarding the ability to afford to stay in their homes
15-second warning.
due to taxes and higher costs of living. So this is a short introduction of who I am and why I'm seeking an 11-month term on the Rockingham Select Board. The future of our community matters. Thank you.
That's your time, you're perfect.
Okay. John. Thank you all for being here. I live in Saxon River, Vermont currently. When I was a year old, my family moved to Bellows Falls. So for the better part of 50 years, I've lived in this town. And I'm raising 2 kids in this town. I say raising because I haven't yet raised them. My son Andrew, I'll put him on the spot. He's in the audience tonight. I think it's important for Andrew's a junior at the high school. And getting more people involved and getting younger people involved is extremely important. And it's great to see some of our young adults participating in some of these events. In terms of my career, my work career, I've been in the building trades for most of my life. I was a teacher for an early stint after college, and currently work for a weatherization contractor. So I've been around buildings, old buildings, new buildings, worked for a new construction home builder as well. I've been on the Planning Commission going on, I think more than 3 years now. We've finished rewriting the town plan, so it's been great to look at things that we need to do looking into the future in Bellows Falls. And also, I've been involved in the Rockingham Incremental Development Working Group, which came out of some other efforts in the town about where we want to go in the future. Also a housing provider in town, so intimately aware of our old building stock and the needs of our community in terms of housing, good quality housing, affordable housing. So I feel that that's given me a unique and good perspective on
15-second warning.
the challenges that we're meeting today.
So thank you very much for coming again, and looking forward to this.
Great, thank you. Okay, final.
I'll say it again. Thank you, everyone. It's good to see a nice turnout here tonight. I'm Bonnie North. I'm a retired journalist and publisher. I moved here from Baltimore, Maryland in 2010. Candidly, I never in my wildest imaginings thought I would ever run for elected office anywhere. It just kind of worked out that way. In 2016, our county sheriff wanted to build a detention center, AKA prison, on our riverfront, and I was appalled, and many people were. Joined with a small group of people, and we formed Rockingham for Progress to fight that. And we succeeded. And we kept that going. That was my first foray into like public speaking and politics and stuff. Then I was invited to join the Planning Commission, where I was on there for 4 years, I think. I'm not sure how many. And eventually, people encouraged me to run for select board. So I did, and it has certainly been an education for me to have to really roll up the sleeves and dig into the nuts and bolts of running a town. It's been just fascinating. I think we've had for 3 years a really good board and a great town manager and staff to work with. So that's kind of my background. I live in Bells Falls
15-second warning.
with my dog Rexy. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ready? Okay. Again, thank you everybody for coming in, and Laurel and Steve for putting this on. My name is Dan Talstra. I'm probably the newest person on this board. Came here in 2019, packed up and moved from Seattle. It is, as a city, it was just getting a little too big, too crowded. The politics were just getting weird. I think it's probably about the best word I can come up with. And we came out here, we did visits, and we fell in love with the general area. We looked at Putney, Newfane, I think Weston, the general area, and just this area. We just kind of fell in love with the atmosphere, the towns, and the people. We bought property just outside Saxon's River. I guess, we kind of look at Saxon's River as our home village, but we try and enjoy both villages and stuff. I got involved with
15 seconds.
with the town 2 years ago with the Bike Walk Committee, and have been involved with that. So.
Got your time, thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, Deb.
Okay, I'm Deborah Wright. Most of you probably know me one way, shape, or form, and I've been involved on a lot of different things. So I live here on Westminster Street, just 2 buildings down. Been here for the past 20 years, along with my husband, family members who also came with me, and my giant dog, which many of you have seen. I'm the founder and CEO of Green Mountain Traffic Control, which I run out of my home because everyone else works on the road. I'm in my office 5 or 6 days a week, probably more often than I would be if I was downtown, like I used to be, where I employ up to 30 people every year, and many of them come from Rockingham. I'm in local politics. I've been there since 2011, served on the Bellows Falls Village Trustee Board, and I've been its president for about 4 or 5 years until May of 2023. I'm on the Rockingham Planning Commission, where I've been for several years, just like Bonnie. However, right now, I'm in my 3rd year as the commission's chair. We're finishing up the town plan. We're getting ready to go to bylaw modernization. I'd love to have more input from citizens about how they feel on the changes that we have coming on. On the Bellows Falls Union High School Board, I've been there at least 3 years with a brief break and reappointed last year by the good graces of the Rockingham School Board. I'm a member of the Bellows Falls Downtown Development Association on its promotion committee. I also have 8 grandchildren and several great-grandchildren, but one of them is now still going into WNESU, and many of my grandchildren did, along with the blended family members that I also have, and their children go to the Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union School District. Currently, I'm a member. Oh, good. I'm not going to get very far. Currently a member of the VLCT Equity Committee and a member of the Opioid Settlement Committee, working remotely. I'm also a trustee for the Public and Campbell Funds here, a JP and a notary. And everyone knows I am very passionate about everything I do here and have no problem expressing my opinion. Although I do a lot of research behind it. Thank you. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks to all of you. Appreciate it. Okay. So now I'm going to, as I said, the candidates have all gotten 2 questions that they know ahead of time, and we're going to address those now. And we're going to, this time we'll start at the far end of the table, so we'll start with Deborah and work our way this way.
How much time do I need for that?
Get a breath first. And again,
This won't take long.
we won't be asking Rick to answer the questions now. It occurs to me, Rick, we could maybe give you an extra minute for a closing thing, and you could address some of the questions at that point briefly.
I've got some answers.
Yeah, so thanks. And again, people can certainly be some opportunities outside this forum. So, yeah, so 2 minutes each. So the first question is, how do you balance keeping taxes affordable with providing the services, improvements, and development that people want?
So okay. As many of you who have talked to me know, I'm actually a futurist. I don't just look at the current situation, what's going on here, but also what it sounds like going down the years, say 3 generations at least. So I want to see what the effects, and I'm having to project those effects in order to get an idea about what's going on. So the echoes of what happened several generations away is important to me. It's not just about the community right now, but where some people think we're headed and what will happen to that, how it will impact those of us who are here right now and those of us who will move here in the future. I balance all those concerns of the few with the needs of everyone and what our abilities are to pay for the services and the development that we need. Can we do it based upon average incomes and our ability to continue as we have an more aging population? What are the priorities for repair and replacement? Capital project lists are critical to what comes next. And I've seen we've done some of that work on the select board for the town. We need more because we have to continue to juggle priorities and make sure the most important things get done first and that we have the funding to do it. What should be postponed for now without jeopardizing our quality of life? In the mix is what will this community look like in 3 generations or 6? How can we retain our future graduates while using holistic data, not short-term projections, in order to make sure that they will have a good life too. It's not just about us and when we leave. I mean, I'm 66. I'm not going to be here forever, right? But what will happen to my great-grandkids and your great-grandkids and so on and so forth?
15 seconds.
Okay. I'm tough on budgets. Everybody must know that if you've watched me at any meeting. Doing more with what we have is key to spending wisely. It's your pockets that are emptying. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Stan.
Okay, the ability to balance taxes and provide the service that town and the people want. I say the main objective is you have to increase the tax base. We need to find some way to attract businesses, bring the jobs in. Need to find a way to retain the younger generation who live in town. And that's something that multiple people have mentioned to me as I was getting the signatures, is that we need the jobs. I mean, and how we do that, I think working with the Chamber of Commerce, I mean, which I'm also on the board of that, we need to find a way to attract those businesses. In addition to that, we need to build a housing stock, which and John's a little more versed on than I am. But if we can't bring that in, I mean, we won't have any option but to either cut services or raise taxes. So that would be my main method of maintaining our level of services and keeping taxes down. We just need to increase that tax base.
15-second warning.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Bonnie.
Well, this question, how do you balance it? Well, it's pretty much next to impossible, frankly. Everybody wants everything, and nobody wants to pay more for it. So you're up against that at the onset. It's very, very hard. I was astounded when I started to see how much it costs to maintain the sidewalks and the roads. Good God, one snowplow truck was $200,000, and they don't have a long lifespan because they work them to death. So this is really hard. What are you going to do? You're going to just keep throwing Band-Aids on the squeakiest wheels in town and hope to make it through an election cycle? What we've had the last 3 years that I'm so grateful for is a town manager who is competent, experienced, articulate, and patient. And we've had to make some really tough decisions in the last 3 years. What to do about the bridges to the island that haven't been cared and maintained for decades. What to do about the town hall roof, which is leaking. The meeting house needs so much work. And how in the world can we deal with this on top of regular stuff? But Scott has helped us look back 5 years, 10 years, at the bonds that were taken out by previous boards and so forth. When will those be paid? Where will we be in a year? Where will we be in 5 years? And helped us plot out how
15-second warning.
you can do this sort of thing. So I'm very grateful for that. And believe me, it is not easy.
Thank you, Bonnie. Okay, John.
Clearly, 2 minutes is pretty tough for anybody to talk about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot there, and it's a concern not only for us in this community, but every single community across the state, every single community across the country. So we're not alone. You know, I think that we have to be creative about how we are going to increase revenue and decrease costs. And there's going to need to be some tough decisions that are made. And I think one of those that may be coming up will be our various fire departments and whether that makes sense to consolidate to save taxpayer money and efficiencies. Our housing stock, as Stan mentioned, you know, it's one of the key, it's probably the key to many of the issues that any town has. It affects our businesses, whether they're able to recruit people. It's affecting whether people can even move into the community. We have the oldest, Windham County has the oldest building stock in the state. It's expensive to repair and maintain older buildings. And I saw a statistic today that even building low-income housing, some of these organizations that are doing that, it used to, 3 years ago, it cost $220,000 per unit to build. Now it's $540,000 to build 1 unit of housing. So super expensive, and we need to be creative in how we're going to address that, because again, I think that housing is the thing that's going to tie a lot of these things together. So be creative, think outside the box. We need to look for grants as much as we can. And our community members, we have a lot of pride in this town, so I think there's a lot of people that are willing to step up and help in any way they can.
Okay, thanks. Okay, now Jamie.
All right, I'd start by working as a team with the select board and town manager to take a closer look at our expenditures for both the general fund and articles that raise our taxes and where and how these monies are actually being spent. I'd encourage the community to be more involved and voice their true needs versus wants, including our current business owners and what they need to allow them to remain sustainable moving forward. We need to take a hard look again at the wants of the community as well as what's needed. And that would be the level of public safety, infrastructure, housing, social services at Rockingham Meeting House, train projects, and supporting our current businesses. Also to help identify issues before they become issues by asking the right questions prior to moving forward with projects, as well as their full impact, both now and into the future. We continue to hear for every project or idea that's added, it takes away from something else being completed or increases costs. We hear there aren't enough resources or personnel to complete everything, including keeping the town website updated to allow our citizens to be informed. Have we tried thinking outside the box, contacting our local high school to get local kids involved with town hall? I believe there are students that are required to complete community service hours. Could we reach out and get a few students involved to help support, keep things updated on the town website, as well as being involved with local politics in our community? Sounds like a win-win to me. As a board and community, we need to be aware and start looking now at the future of our bridge repairs and replacements. This will certainly require matching funds and identify where these funds are coming from. These repairs and replacements have already been moved out a few different times. However, we don't hear what the final cost and what we're going to need to pay for it. It will be difficult to balance all this until such time we're able to receive all the answers to the questions. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, in a minute, I'll ask a second question, and when I do, we'll continue in the same order, but this time we'll start with Stan. Each time we'll start with another person up. So the next question will be answered by Stan, Bonnie, John, Jamie, and Deborah. But before I do that, if there's you have some questions already, why don't you bring those that you have already to Laurel? And again, keep putting questions in, because we'll keep taking them until the end here. So, okay, so the second question that the five candidates are going to answer now is, what philosophy or vision or values would guide your work as a select person? Okay, thanks. And go ahead, when Stan, go ahead.
Okay. I guess first, my philosophy or vision is that as a member of select board, I'm there to serve the people. And that's kind of a common response, but that's how I've looked at it on the walk bike in the committee. That's how I've looked at it. We're trying to make recommendations that benefit the people of the town. And Rockingham, for me, is kind of unique in that it's so rural. After growing up West Coast, just trying to focus on or make sure that everybody's included. And as I said in my opening, and the people were really the main thing that attracted us to this area. And it's the people that actually make the community. So, again, so focus on the people, need to find a way to maintain Rockingham's charm and character. And as I said, as we try and bring employment in, that we don't ruin that. again, that's, I think, very important for any town to have. And as I mentioned here, I think with John, that people are very proud.
15-second warning.
People are very proud of their towns. And that is something that is fairly new to us, and it's, again, something that needs to be preserved.
Thank you.
Okay, Bonnie.
I mentioned before that I was one of the founders of Rockingham for Progress. I'm still the president. And when I was looking at this question, I thought back to the mission statement that we drew up back in 2016. It really expresses my philosophy and vision. We want to promote progressive economic development and an appreciation of the historic value and natural beauty of our town. We want to promote the general enlivening of citizen participation in our local democratic processes, which Rick and I have been involved in with the town meeting survey. When I was chair of the planning commission, we put out a survey for people for that. It's really important to get people involved. And I'm dedicated to the economic and cultural revivification of our town while preserving, whenever possible, the unique history embedded in our older structures. So this is where I'm coming from. There's a lot of aspects to that. Economic development, a lot of things, housing, all that. I'm also on the Wyndham Regional Commission, on the Community Development Committee, and the Brownfields Committee, and the Executive Board. So I've seen all through the Wyndham region how towns are struggling with the same issues we have here, same ones. And
15-second warning.
I'm proud to serve. Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie. Okay, John. Sure.
I feel that I'm more of a data-driven person. I feel that there can be a difference between perception and reality. So whenever there's an issue that I come up, I'm looking for the data to help support that or to inform what that decision should be. Growing up in Bellows Falls, I've seen it at various stages over 50 years and times when it's been down on its luck and people just said, oh, Bellows Falls? Really? Rockingham? And looking around this room, a lot of these faces are familiar to me because you're involved. And you're probably hearing things outside of this community about how wonderful Bellows Falls is. So we are getting some notoriety from within our community, outside our community, at the state level and beyond. That's super exciting. And that's one of the major reasons why I'm running is I want to be more of a part of that. I think that there's a lot of momentum that is going on right now in this community, and we need to make sure that that continues. I also see that some of the challenges that we have right now are because past decisions that have been made to push things off. And yes, no one wants their taxes to continue to rise. But some of the problems that we're facing are because we put stuff off years ago, and now we have to do it, and it's so much more expensive now than it would have been then. So I will also look to what makes sense in terms of our expenses, what should we be investing in? And part of that is investing in the future by paying for things now to protect yourselves from the future rising costs. And I also just, I try to get out as much as possible to other areas of the state to see what other towns are doing to help inform my decisions as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Great. Jamie.
All right, so I can honestly say I'm not a politician. I'm one individual that wants to step up and serve the community for betterment of the community at large. There are several in our community that are looking for more openness and transparency within our select board and town hall. This needs to happen to allow our community to know and feel they are getting what they voted for and approved. I cannot, nor would I speak for others, but I can assure you that I would provide the service that is expected from an elected official. Growing up in the Northeast Kingdom, it was always about neighbor helping neighbor, and that still rings true today. We're in difficult times and everything is so busy and electronic, we often lose sight of the fact that there may be a neighbor or others in need. It's important to check in on and listen to people. It's also important to speak with civility and adjust your views when necessary. Nobody has all the answers. However, when you get a group together and discuss an issue, you will always come up with an acceptable solution. As a community now more than ever, we need to look at how to move forward to keep our town prospering, growing, and with safety and sustainability in mind. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And Deborah, do you want to move?
Which should be said, I guess. I don't think I need 2 minutes, but all right, okay. My philosophy, I've already expressed it, is to make sure that we are building multi-generational solutions for our community, not just those of us who are living here now and love where we live, because I do, and that's why I've done political work and stuff, because I think it's important that we are as transparent as possible, that we are as holistic as possible, that we think of the solutions have to cover everything. Don't just do one thing without doing everything. Make sure we have jobs, make sure we have services that everyone needs, make sure that our housing is appropriate. Based upon information I got from the listers, they're looking for more single houses, but single families, but that's not where we're headed. So for me, it's what happens to the people, the children, their grandchildren, great-grandchildren who are going to be here after we're gone. Will they have a sustainable life? Will they be happy to be here, or will they fly out of town, which we've had many, many years of that sort of thing happening as taxes continue to go up. So it all has to be balanced. It's important that we do that, and also that, as I said, the holistic approach is making sure that we cover all of the bases, not just some of them. We have to ask the right questions. That's important. Dialoguing at table in public meetings, so everyone hears our aspects, what we think about the things that are going on, is very important. When boards don't do anything like that, you wonder where all their conversation is, if they're all on the same page, or they just let someone else take the reins. It's important that you dialogue. That's what all the brains are there for, in order to make sure that all aspects have been looked at and that we will make the right decisions for everything that has to be done, whether it's
15-second warning.
okay, our brownfields, our bridges. Look at the violence that's going on forever, and it should not have happened. It's demolition by neglect. I don't want that to see that in my community anymore. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you all for that. And that, do you have one? Okay, so this time we'll start with Bonnie, and then John, Jamie, Deborah, and Stan. What is your position on reopening the reuse recycling building at the recycle center?
Oh, boy, well, I'm a good one to start with. Because I'm the one that spent months looking into this and visited Walpole, Springfield, Brattleboro, and I gave a report to the select board. One thing I might put in is that if folks want to know what we're doing, come to the meetings or watch them on Fact TV. Every single meeting is on there. You can even go back and look at old ones. And you'll see all the deliberations and dialogue and talking that went on when the decision was made. And we worked for months on that. My position is it won't work in our location. It isn't big enough. We have a good system now. People move through quickly. It's nice and tidy in there, not like it used to be. I'd love to see one somewhere else. I spent time down there, full days with that crew, and they explained to me how, depending upon how things are piled up, they might need all the room in that warehouse. It's not heated. There's no water. It floods in the rain from the back. It's just not a good place for it. Springfield, Walpole has a glorious swap shop, and anybody can take their stuff over there. Anybody can take their stuff to Springfield. Anybody can take their stuff to Brattleboro. It's a shame, but I don't think we can do it in our location.
Thanks. Okay.
I certainly feel that there's some value to it. I believe in, reuse and recycling things rather than having, forcing people to buy new all the time. But I certainly see the challenges that there are in our community in terms of, trying to prevent people from just using it as a place to dump their things that they don't want that are actually in decent condition. So there's certainly some thought that we'll have to put into how we can manage that effectively and not just create more work or more expense if it's not achieving the desired outcome. So I agree with Bonnie that there's definitely some challenges to that, and certainly in our community, and the site itself where it has been may not be the right site, but it may. I certainly think that it takes some. Bonnie's certainly done a lot of studying of it and looked at other communities and how they've set it up, and it may work better. So I don't want to say that we shouldn't do it. I think that there's a very good purpose for it.
Thanks. Jim?
Well, I would just start with, there are no problems, only solutions, right? And we have to find something. If the community at large wants something like this, and we need to find somewhere where it's feasible, right? And is that a volunteer group getting together to say, hey, we'll get together one day a week, we'll open a shop somewhere to be able to allow this to happen, so we continue to be able to, reuse, recycle, everything else, with the intent of the recycle center. I agree, Bonnie's done a lot of research and everything. It might not be the right site, but if we get the right people together, we could find a solution.
I agree with that.
So.
Thanks. Okay, Deborah.
Okay, I've heard this topic, I've been listening to the select board talk about what needs to be done, what can happen, what can't happen. There are enough people who would like to do a petition. It could become a subject of an annual meeting or a special meeting. But I think that the building is a waste as it is right now, although I do agree that some people didn't want to put their stuff in recycling or pay for it going across the scale, so they would just leave things that weren't of value. But if it becomes organized enough, I think we could diversify the use of the building, which means not just for secondhand recycle things, but something else, because it's a perfectly acceptable building with some improvement. It has leaking problems. But right now, it's simply used for the technological stuff, all of our IT things that are left over. They collect those, they sell them. But there are other things we can do with it. Why would we have an empty building that's just going to sit there? And I think there's a lot of potential, but it needs more research, and it needs some work. It's going to need some money, and have to figure out how to do that. But diversifying the use of the building might be an effective way to get it back in service. Thanks.
Great. Okay, thanks. And Stan?
Okay, I have to say, I have no personal experience with it. I guess it closed during COVID, and we got here just before. I think that it's been said here, that the concept is good. I've listened to the select board debates on it, and it seemed they got a little heated at times. So at this point, I don't really have anything, yes or no on it. It's definitely something that sounds like the people want, and the town should probably look at it and see if there is a feasible option in another location, or run by a third party or something. But I mean, that's about where I am on that.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Leftover time? But I have this leftover time.
She really has something burning she has to say.
No, I just want to say, at the other towns where,
We can get it if it's quick. Go ahead.
in other towns where they're successful, they have a big crew of volunteers. It's all volunteers. All volunteers at Brattleboro, all volunteers at Walpole, same thing in Springfield. And like Jamie said, Brattleboro was started a long time ago by just volunteers. The guy started on his front lawn, just collecting stuff once a week. So it can be done. When I say no, I'm talking about where we have our transfer station now.
Great, okay, thanks. Okay, this time we'll start with John and then Jamie, then Deborah, Stan, and Bonnie. How can the select board be more welcoming to citizen participation?
Great question. One, I think that we have to be supportive of each other, of our community members. Bonnie said, would she ever run for political office, and maybe Jamie said it as well, but I think growing up, I certainly saw some select board meetings and other things. I was like, no way would I ever subject myself to that. And I think that it's gotten better, but I still do think that we as community members need to respect each other and our different opinions, and also come from an attitude of positivity and not just negativity. We're in positions to make things happen, not prevent things from happening. And so I think just, our attitudes, how we behave in those meetings, how we behave outside of those meetings, that generally does a lot to make it more welcoming. And I think inviting our young people, our young residents, as much as possible. So much of what we do, the decisions we make, impact them. But you don't see them in our meetings when we're making decisions. So we need to do more to start them early and get them involved.
Jamie?
Well, to be more welcoming, I guess the start of it is communication. Communication is key to the success or failure of anything that anyone tries to do in life. And by the town website not being updated properly, not getting notifications of meetings, discourages people from turning out, because they can't turn out if you don't know, right? So, I've been kind of vocal since October or so, and asking, can we get a single point of contact on the town website, so citizens as well as the select board know who to contact to provide updates, to make sure that our citizens and folks are informed so they know when meetings are coming. And when you attend a meeting, to actually be addressed and respected and listened to when you get there, right? But again, civility is key as well. And you have to adjust your views, whether you believe it or not, whether you're on the board or in the community. We all just have to take a breath and be able to address it to make it more welcoming. But it starts out with communication and information, right? And if you don't have it, it's hard to be friendly or even know. So that's all I have on it.
Thank you, Jamie. Deborah?
Yes, that is a very good question, and that's because that was the original reason why I started running for office in 2011, was because there was a lack of communication for the public to participate. The meetings were not published properly, or they were put in the 3 posting areas. We have 3 of those. Maybe they should be more than that to make it easier for people. If any, and one of the tools we do have is, by statute, if anyone wishes to get agendas and meeting minutes, you simply write to the person who posts these and ask to be included on a list, and you can get any of the minutes and any of the meetings coming out on regularly. I did that in Saxon's River many years ago, and I'm still getting stuff, which is great, because I think any information is good information. Beyond that, yes, maybe posting needs an upgrade. Legislature needs to look at what we need to do to get meeting information out there to the public more. The hybrid meeting idea that they had has failed in legislature, making it a permanent condition, because some communities cannot function financially to get all that done with the IT and all. But it is something, if we're already doing it, we should continue doing it to make sure that we're as public as possible, transparent as possible for people. The other option is, the other thing that's bothering me, and so right on these minutes I just got right here, which is, it should go away. which is additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters and pressing matters that will require ratification. Oh, not that. It's the public comment on agenda items not on the agenda. That is not in statute. What's in statute is public comment, period. And that means you should be able to talk about an item that's on the agenda if you like, and get your 3 minutes, or when the item comes up, there's whatever the select board has chosen for their time limit. But you should be able to do that all the time, and that should go away. That's less fair. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Stan.
I have to agree with what everybody's said. I mean, but the select board, I mean, I think the main thing would be outreach to the citizens, be it notifications and, are visible and found easily. As far as welcoming, I know the board, somebody had brought up to the board that when they're watching them on Fact TV, their back is to the camera. And the board responded to that and turned around. I thought that was a very positive step in becoming welcoming. I think all 5 of them were supporting it.
Oh, yeah.
But again, I think it's the outreach. It's, I mean, by chance, me going through the paper one day, I saw that they were looking for people to join the walk bike committee. So, and if, and I think they had three of us submit interest in it. Stuff like that, I think if it were a little more visible, a little more out there for people to see, they might get a little more interaction and not just the same people, which I feel is what happens. So again, so just reaching out to the people and respecting what they say.
Great, thank you. I appreciate you're all facing the audience tonight instead of your backs to us. Thank you. Okay, Bonnie.
Well, I have to just echo what everybody else has said. I designed the town website 3 years ago, and it has deteriorated ever since I was taken off of it. It was planned to have a calendar on the homepage, and you could everything listed there, and you could click, and you would go right to the agenda, the location of that meeting, and so forth. None of that exists. It's all been taken away. So it's very, very, very frustrating. I've crabbed about it as much as I politely can. I encourage anybody that's frustrated to contact Town Hall and tell them so something can start to happen. I've spent hours training people from Town Hall how to use it, and it's very, very easy to use it and update it. They're just not doing it. And I think there was at one point a sandwich board outside.
Yeah.
Every time we had a select board meeting, right?
Yeah.
But they stopped putting that out there. I think that's very important. And I think, honestly, people need to just get motivated. If you don't want to come down to the meeting, I can understand. But you can, Alex has them up on their website within, 5 days usually?
It's up as soon as the meeting's done.
Yeah, more or less.
As soon as the meeting's done.
Oh, okay. So it's all right there. It's all right there. And if you feel like decisions are being made, you don't know what, you find out if you just watch. Because we discuss and go over, and finally we vote, and we don't fight anymore about it.
Okay, thank you.
Like 1 minute now.
Once you want, sure, we'll get the we should take 2 minutes to respond to everything, or up to 2 minutes.
All right,
With everything so far. Or do you want another question?
I just have another issue. I want to take this 1 minute to honor Susan Hammond,
Yeah.
for her 10 years of service. Okay, here's what we wrote about her in the town report. We will miss Sue's wisdom, institutional memory, and thoughtful approach to difficult issues. So she is the voice of reason and calm consideration. When things get heated, Sue can put it all in perspective and brings us to a point of consensus, and that's a gift. So thank you, Sue. Thank you. Now, usually.
Susan, when you walked in the door tonight, I wanted to get another chair up here so you could.
Yeah, felt weird.
Okay,
Everyone in town
Yeah.
supporting you for the last year.
thank you for all you've done.
Can I say that I encouraged Susan to run 10 years ago? Yeah. And I'm sure she still hasn't forgiven me.
Yeah.
All right, this question, we'll start with Jamie and then Deborah, Stan, Bonnie, and John. How would you increase our town's resilience in the face of climate change?
Oh, that's well, I think well, for climate change, I would have to say that, we're moving in the right direction now. We're doing our town hall, roof right now with our solar panels. We're looking at other ways to address it. I know there was, electric charging station that just went in at the waypoint. They were looking at possibly in the future putting a few there that are going to, support reducing carbon emissions. That's really, I don't have a lot on climate right now. I mean,
Great.
that's all I've got.
Thanks. Deborah?
Okay, I've been pushing for over a decade for us to do something like solar panels on the town hall, because I believe every one of us should do what we can to reduce our carbon footprint, and we also have the ability to do that. We have a lot of sun on a lot of our roofs, including things like our wastewater treatment plant and the water plant. Those are places where I think they're still applicable, and there's also land which we could do that as well, to reduce the amount of fuel that we use. And that has been something I have done since before I got on the board, and I went to the trustees, and I went to the select board and asked them to change that, but they were still stuck in their ways. And just now are moving forward. So it's been over a decade that I've been wanting to move us forward. As to additional resiliency, connectivity is extremely important. We need to be able to connect our citizens to help when things happen, like COVID, or if we have another flood, or if we get to the 100-year flood, or whatever it's going to be. Lucky for many of us, we are on the high side of the Connecticut River, but things still happen, and we still have to worry about that. We also see things just here in the village where floods happen on Underhill and places like that. We need to be able to connect with each other in order to help each other. That was very evident during COVID, and it is still pertinent. No matter what the crisis is, we need to be able to talk to each other and help those who can't help themselves, who need the help. Electric charging stations are great, but if the power goes out, we have a large event like that, that isn't going to help us any. We need to be able to get down on our feet and march through to someone's house and say, what can I do for you? What has to happen? And that still hasn't happened yet. We have small groups of us do that for our neighbors, but we need to do more of it, because there's still a lot of people who feel isolated in Rockingham. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Stan?
This issue, it obviously is concerning a lot of people. We are looking towards use of solar power. We'll probably do wind. I know up at our place, we could probably put a wind turbine up there and do good. But there's more that we need to look at. We need to look at our water runoff, our storm catchments. We need to be able to direct that water. We need to be able to in some way try and keep the rivers from flooding as much as possible. These questions aren't necessarily easy, or and fixing the questions isn't necessarily easy. And going solar is, I mean, definitely a great start. The thing I've heard mentioned is, maybe moving some of the city vehicle or town vehicles to electric, but and Deb said if power goes out, where are we going to charge them? Can we have some switch over to electric? Yeah, that might be thing to do, but the larger trucks that we would need in an emergency, I think definitely need to stay.
15-second warning.
Same gas and diesel, so we need to look at everything. We need to look at solar, wind, and maintain the floodwaters.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Bonnie.
Well, I'm very proud that the first year that our current board was in place, we managed to take some land that wasn't being used, that had been sort of mined for gravel, and lease it out for a solar array up there, and we'd get $50,000 a year from that company. That's a nice little thing we did. I think the biggest problem we have here in Rockingham is flooding and runoff. We have a very expensive thing going on up at the industrial park right now because the parking lot was flooding down, impinging on the railroad track. It's just a terrible mess. And that's one of the biggest headaches we have at the Wyndham Regional Commission too, is flooding. It's a big concern, and it's a big concern in Montpelier too, obviously, because they got flooded out. And that doesn't have an easy answer because all over the state, our towns are located on the waterways. Even little towns on a small river like Saxon's River, that Saxon's River can be a monster. We saw that in Irene. It's a hard one. It's really, really hard. And you have to, it's like a systemic historic problem that we're confronted with now at this time. And it's very, very, very hard. Scientists are working on it. We have to be willing to make compromises, to give up some land that we're using
15-second
now
warning.
that needs to be held as a riparian buffer. Big challenges.
Okay, thanks. Okay, John.
I think Rockingham is a leader in terms of energy efficiency. We're seeing more large-scale solar coming online, and there are currently a few projects that have been completed, and obviously we have hydropower as well, so that's pretty unique for our environment. But, I think that weatherization of our homes is going to be a big thing. We need to help people reduce fossil fuel usage to heat and cool their homes, but also more importantly, protect it from air moving through in terms of pollutants and moisture and all of those things. So that's going to help in the, when we do come up against some of these natural disasters, allowing people to be able to stay in their homes comfortably. In terms of storm water, runoff and things like that, certainly when we have damages, to our roads and things like that, not looking to just bring them up to where they were prior to that storm, but future-proofing them. And we're starting to see that. And certainly this last summer, we saw many places that did do that had way less damage than they did during Irene. So that should be a lesson to us that we need to be thinking about that. A warmer planet is going to be a wetter planet, so we're going to need to think about that in some big ways. We've seen that local food producers, I know the public gardens here up near the rec center. I think the farmer's market for this community should be way bigger than it is. I hope that it does get there. I think if we can start relying more on local food production, that would be great. And I know that there have been neighborhood groups that have come out of this, and we should be thinking about the Ridwig group, the Incremental Development Working Group, talked about neighborhoods as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, this question will start with Deborah and come down this way. What do you see as the future of law enforcement and emergency services throughout Rockingham?
I believe that law enforcement should be a town-wide subdivision as opposed to the Village of Bells Falls. Because because there are other neighborhoods, as we are seeing, and we'll see on our budget at the meeting on April 1st, who are looking for law enforcement help. They want help patrolling their neighborhoods. They need that. The Village of Bells Falls has a police department, but the rest of Rockingham does not, and has to pay for the services as little as they are, considering the cost of Windham County Sheriff's. State police, I do not believe, provide that any longer. So I think that's a bigger conversation, and I think something that the tri-board should consider longer. As I was on the village, I said, if the town of Rockingham wants the police department, you can write us a check right now. But that never happened. However, I think if we had a larger tax base from which, and also to spread out the amount of costs, the costs for a police department and a fully functioning town police department, it would be more cost effective for everybody, and we get what we needed out of that. We would be able to protect our communities better, and we would get, I think, better service from our officers. I think that that's very important, and I don't even think I need to go any further than that, but the conversation should go on.
Great, thanks. Okay, Stan.
In the time I've been here, I've seen that both the policing and the fire departments have been a very contentious issue in this town. And I'm not sure I really understand why. It seems to me that the town should have one police department and one fire department. You can still maintain the individual stations. And by the way the town is spread out, I mean, you need to have those separate stations. But I think it is a discussion that needs to go forward and should probably go through the tri-board meetings. I don't know if they need to do a separate citizen committee to look at it, or if that's if it's something the board just needs to sit down and look at. But I think there needs to be one police department, one fire department that's downstream to the whole town.
Thanks. Okay, Bonnie.
I agree with Deborah and Stan, basically. This is a real problem. I went around to several towns this summer and talked about their need for emergency services, working with the Windham Regional. And this is everywhere. Some towns, they have a town manager, and that's it. There's no other staff, there's no fire department, there's no police department. There might be one guy that drives the snowplow. I mean, you know, some towns only have 100 people in them. So, you know, we're lucky to have a problem here that we're equipped to address, actually, by taking a good look at this. It's only been in the last year we've been having tri-board meetings. That's actually a new thing. And it's the first time that trustees from Saxons River, Bells Falls, and Select Board are getting together and really talking in a you know, cooperative way about problems we all share. So that's the first step. Yeah, there's gotta be consolidation. There really needs to be.
Great, thanks. John?
I feel like the next question is going to be whether we should merge town and village governments.
Let me move over.
In terms of, I agree that, in terms of law enforcement, that, our more rural areas should be represented as well. And I know that, for emergency services, my wife is a member of the EMT response team in Saxon River. And, most of their calls in the past were to Athens, and they no longer handle Athens anymore, but very, very, very few of the calls were in the village of Saxon River. My parents live 1.5 miles from the Saxon River Fire Station, but they live in Westminster. Westminster's got to come all the way through Bellows Falls, essentially, to get to them. They're not going over the mountain, particularly in mud season. So we should be more regional in how we're approaching our emergency services. The closest facility should be dispatched. We have mutual aid. We should be able to utilize services from other towns. That's what matters most, is who can respond the quickest. So that's sort of how I feel about how we should be handling that. And again, I think that, it certainly makes sense to have your police force in your dense village where you have a higher percentage of the population. But I think the people that may want to do harm are going to realize that there are other places outside of the village that they can do harm. So we want to make sure that
15-second warning.
we can deter that as well.
Thanks. Okay, Jamie?
All right, so I might as well take some of my closing on this, because I am very passionate about public safety, and that's for everybody. It doesn't matter where you are in our community or the state at large, whatever. But right now, we have Saxon's River with a separate little, contract with Windham County Sheriff that they're very happy with. Rural Rockingham last year, we decided to do 1-year test to pay $6,000 for services out to rural Rockingham, right? So we'll get feedback at town meeting and we'll vote to do that again. However, instead of being a townwide policing, we have a capable Bellows Falls Fire Department or Police Department that could certainly provide the same service that Windham County Sheriff is. And at least, throw out that olive branch and at least start the conversation by providing a service, not forcing anyone to spend any more. But we understand how crime and everything else is going on. It's only going to increase, and the shortages of officers throughout the state. I actually have a new neighbor that's moving here in August, joining the Vermont State Police, and he's moving all the way from Idaho. Right? So, there's problems everywhere. But with the police department, Bellows Falls, providing a service, which they already do under the Governor Highway Safety Program, they've already been up to 103. They're more likely to be able to respond to a 911 emergency than Windham County Sheriff. If Windham County Sheriff has an officer or a deputy in the area, yes, they will respond to rural Rockingham. But we have Bellows Falls right now that can provide the same service and get the conversation started. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this will be the final question from the audience that we'll get a chance to answer tonight. And this time we'll start with Stan, Bonnie, John, Jamie, and Deborah. The question is, what do you see as the greatest opportunity for our community at the moment, and how will this impact our town moving forward? So, Stan, go ahead.
All right, greatest opportunity. I guess going back, looking at the dedication that people have for this town, the commitment that if that can be channeled, I think it'll really benefit the town. I see, like with the chamber, I mean, we're trying to get things in moving, trying to, get the word out that what a good places is to live. Again, as I said, that's what drew us here. The town just needs to build on that and get itself out there. And with that, I think it'll help bring in the revenues, bring in the people, the tourists, and just help grow the town.
Good, thanks. Bonnie?
I think right at this point in time, our greatest opportunity is visitors and tourism. I can sense as I travel around, as I look at things on Facebook and even on YouTube, I see, Bellows Falls. What a cool little place that nobody ever heard of, And I'm treasurer of the Historical Society, and we built this beautiful park. And for years, nobody even knew it was there. People that even live here didn't know it was there. But it's getting to be known now. And the fact that this is a walkable town, which has a lot of pluses for it in today's world. People really, really look for that. That's how I came to be here from a Google search. Walkable villages in Vermont. Swear to God. Never heard of the place before. So I think that's our greatest opportunity, to make it beautiful. People I know, I have a lot of friends in Putney, and they say, wow, I can't believe Bellows Falls. And the lights are so beautiful at night. Thank you to Elijah, our colleague on the select board. Beautifying the town, making the town friendly. When I first came here, there were so many empty storefronts. Now there's not. It is up and coming. It really is up and coming. And there's an awareness of that. There really, really is. And that's our greatest opportunity right now. Tourism is one of the biggest money makers for the state. And the busiest time
15-second warning.
is in the summer. That's from the state website.
Thanks. John?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Bonnie said. The fact that we are a walkable community is huge. We need to be a vibrant community. We are seeing that. We're seeing the benefits of that. We're seeing people visit here and move here.
And move here,
because of that first impression. And I think, just looking at some of the things that have happened in this town over just the last few years, looking at the BF Garage at one end of the town, the old Shona Grill and Reel Scoop being fixed up, the Miss Bellows Falls Diner, that project, the Flatiron Co-op, the cop shop, that building, new investment coming into that building, the train station, all of these things are things that are happening because, one, this community has a lot of pride. Two, that people are recognizing us and wanting to invest in us, whether that's investment within the town, from the community members that have been here for a long time, or whether that's new people coming in and saying, I really enjoy this town. I really want to help. I think that that's our greatest asset right now is the energy that we are feeling and the people that we have in the community that are willing to step up and make sure that that continues.
Thanks. Okay, Jamie?
All right, well, I can't disagree with anything that any of the other candidates have said. However, I'm going to revert back to public safety when we talk about one of our greatest opportunities. And that's going to be this Triton fire feasibility study that's coming out shortly. It'll probably be discussed, I think it's the tri-board meeting in April, so it'll be after town meeting. But out of this fire feasibility study coming, we'll be able to look at some really important data and discuss what and which aspects of this study will help support and work for us all. This study will likely include how to keep our first responders safer, likely provide our first responders improvements for both training opportunities as well as training record keeping. So the study may not lower taxes, but it may allow us to provide the same level of service without raising the taxes, run more efficiently and effectively in the future to allow for sustainability moving forward. What's also coming out of this is I spent an hour and a half listening to the Putney exit meeting with Triton, and it was pretty eye-opening on what they want to do down there, and they won't accept all of it. However, they asked in an open meeting to reach out to Saxton's River, Rockingham, and Bellows Falls to talk about regionalization and how all these towns and villages can maintain their 150-year tradition of having a fire station that they call their own, however, to operate more efficiently and help other communities as well. And that would be a cost savings. There's also, they suggested a regional training place for all the communities to come to train. Why can't that be here in Rockingham? Thank you.
Thanks. And Deborah?
Well, the town plan is almost totally completed. We're getting ready to the hearing portion of it, and it is a great visionary document that talks about a lot of opportunities we have in our community. Changes in our climate control here, locally, our carbon footprints, the ability to create more housing, more connectivity with our people. There's a lot of great stuff in the new town plan. I'll be so happy to hear you guys' reactions when you get a chance to read some of it. I know it sounds like it's boring, but revolutionize the way it looks in order to get the action steps in front, to get people to get energized about changing these things and doing these things. There's a great big piece about the energy chapter is a lot of work, and I really give it to Guy Payne for all of his work on that. But there are so many things that we can do to create a better resiliency for our community. We want to be here. We want to be able to stay here. We can't do that unless we make in some ways, revolutionary changes. We have lots of conversations all the time, every few years, about stuff that needs to happen, but then we all churn down and we go quiet again. The community visit, the stuff that's apparently where Ridwick went, but that's only some people. We need more people to be energized about changes in our community to make it better. Maintain the best part and move forward on the tools that we have available to us to make that happen. Those are all of our opportunities. I think we need to take advantage of those best we can.
Thanks. Okay, in a minute we'll go to your closing statement, and when we do that, we'll start with Bonnie, John, Jamie, Deborah, and Stan, and then we'll end with Rick. And we will give you an extra minute to talk about any of those other things.
Thank you.
But not much.
Thank you, very kind.
But I do want to read, excellent questions that came from the audience, and there's 4 that we didn't get to, and I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them, but I just want to read them both for the candidates' benefits and just so that we all know these are issues that are on people's minds. What are your thoughts on rent control for residential rentals? More and more, there are news reports about towns and cities' systems being hijacked by internet hackers. Do you think Rockingham needs to focus any resources to protect its municipal systems against these types of cyber attacks? What do you think about the housing shortage in Rockingham? How would you address it? What steps could Rockingham take now to prepare for the future? Do you see opportunities as well as challenges? And I know you all just answered something similar to that, but it's great. I think probably all of us would agree that as well as facing challenges, it's good to look for opportunities. So again, 2 minutes each for a closing statement, except for Rick, who we honor with an extra minute.
So, yeah, go ahead, Bonnie.
Well, thank you for being here and listening to us. Maybe some things I didn't get to say about myself. I'm also real involved in the community. I've had a lot of leadership positions. I was president of Sandglass Theater in Putney for many years, treasurer of the Walpole Artisans Gallery, treasurer of River Artisans Gallery, and I'm treasurer of the Historical Society. I am happy to be on the select board. I gave up my 3-year seat just because I'm getting old. And am I going to really be able to perform my duties in 2 years? I'm not sure. But I am for another year, I know, and if I keep getting elected, I'll be very proud and happy to serve. And maybe a year after that, maybe 3 years, I don't know. But it seemed like I should step out of that 3-year seat and let it be opened up for somebody maybe younger, as it is. My colleague Rick is going to take it. He's younger. He's younger than I am. And I'm glad to continue working with him. I'm going to really miss Susan. But hopefully, we're going to have somebody out of this group join us who's going to be fit in, and we'll have a really good board again for another few years. And thank you all for listening to us. Thank you, Steve,
Yeah,
for pulling this together.
Okay, John.
I think that we have seen our town, our community at its best when we all work together. And when I think of the select board or any organization that any of us belong to or participate in, I'm reminded of a book that I read years ago, Good to Great by Jim Collins. I don't know if anybody's read that book, but it essentially took organizations that outperformed, or businesses that outperformed other businesses, regardless of their product, and outperformed them by significant amounts. And what they found was that if you think of an organization as a bus, and the employees are in seats on the bus, you need to get the right people on the bus first and get the wrong people off. You need to get the right people in the right seat is the next step. And then at any point when the environment changes, the economics change, anything that happens that suddenly forces that company to change, you can do that and change on a dime because you got the right people in the right seat. And that's why I think that why elections are important in any organization or any municipality, that you got to get the right people in the organization, you got to get the right people in the right seat, and then you can accomplish anything. So I hope that you feel that my background living in the town, my background professionally, personally, can bring some merit to that, and that I am the right person
15-second warning.
and, for the organization, and that I will be in the right seat. So thank you.
Thank you. Jamie.
All right, well, just again, thanks everyone, because this is all and more than I expected tonight. So, but just in closing, one of the greatest takeaways that I have from my work career is that I was able to travel to all these other communities for work, some small, some large, and I'd get to listen to local issues in those areas with no bias, personal interest, or really a clear understanding of their local issues until I had time to read the local papers, watch the local news, and most importantly, hear from the locals to hear both sides of an issue. And then I'd be able to make an informed, independent decision on that issue. It also helped me in my work career. When somebody proposed a project, we'd get the right people at the table. We'd all sit and discuss the pros and cons of the project and get everybody weighed in on it, and most importantly, ensuring everyone had a voice. So it's important for us to listen, learn, and then decide. So we don't know or have control regarding the state education tax, what that actual impact will be locally yet, but by working together now, we can look at the future and help control our spending locally to hopefully offset that, to keep people and families in their homes. I would really appreciate your vote on April 2nd, and please make all efforts to attend town meeting on April 1st. Again, the future of our community matters, and thanks again for everybody for your participation tonight.
Thank you, Jamie. Deborah.
Okay, well, I'm sure at the opening, you could see how many offices I've had and now have, still continue to hold. I keep my eye on everything. Every piece of information is important. I appreciate every question you folks have asked tonight, and the conversation's not over. I welcome anyone who has any opinion or ideas about things they want to improve or things that are going on that I may not see in the community to speak to me. But let me know by email, by phone, walk to my office, whatever you need to do. I'm always there. I've lived in New Hampshire, Washington State, and here's my forever home in Vermont. As I said, I've been here for about 20 years. Rockingham is the board that I'm running for, but Bellows Falls is the heart of Rockingham. It is the center. It has the largest mass of people. We have the services. We provide all of these things, and many of these things also are provided to other parts of Rockingham. I'm running for a select board seat because everything that the select board does for the town impacts the village. It's important to keep an eye on all of that, to make sure it's the best for everybody. And that is why I am running, and will continue to read and watch and listen and learn from all of you, as well as what's going on in the rest of the country. And I hope that you see that and would think I would be a good fit for the select board. And thank you all for your time tonight.
Thanks. Okay, Stan.
Wrapping up, I want to again thank you all for coming tonight. Again, as a new person here, as I said, we fell in love with this town, with the people, state. It was not necessarily easy to pack up from the West Coast and move across country, although it also wasn't that hard. I think up here you've got a good selection of people to choose from on election day. I can't say I really disagree with anything here or that's been said. I would add that yes, Bellows Falls is the main population base, but in the 2 years I've been on the walk bike committee, I keep trying to stress that there is more to Rockingham outside of this village. I think that gets lost a lot of the time. Again, we live just outside Saxon's River, and as we talk about something that we want to try and fix here, it's like, okay, well, what about out here? So I think looking at the town as a whole
15-second warning.
is where I'm at. Yes, this is the main population, but you have a town of 42 square miles, I think, that needs to be looked
That's
at.
your time.
Okay, thank you. And Rick, I'm going to give you 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, first, I want to thank everybody who made this happen tonight. This has been a remarkable feedback session, educational.
Yeah.
I've been scribbling ideas down here from candidates, from your questions. So tremendous educational opportunity. I wanted to echo a couple things that have been said. One is Bonnie is expressing appreciation for our town hall staff. In my 3 years, and I've worked in a lot of organizations, I've been so impressed. Scott Pickup, Alyssa Harlow, Gary Fox in development, Glenn Schreider in the highway department. We've got a remarkably capable and hardworking group of people. And one of my goals is to support these people so they can keep doing the jobs they're doing and thus retain them. There's a tremendous competition for municipal employees out there. And I want to make Rockingham the place that people want to work. So that's a key thing. I also wanted to echo what John said about regionalization. The Wyndham Regional Commission had a gathering for all the select board members in Wyndham County. And so we all got together at the town hall in not Wilmington, but Townsend. And we realized as we went around the room talking about our challenges and opportunities that we live in these little silos. And so regionalization isn't just a good idea, it's a must, because the needs that are being placed on us as select board members and communities vastly outstrip our resources. So unless we work together with fire and with education and many other things, a small example of this is that we have hired the new zoning and land use people in town hall are shared with 2 other communities. We realized that we couldn't afford to have these highly specialized people, and we didn't have enough work for them to hire a full-time person. So Scott went out, we worked with Weathersfield and Ludlow, and we have 2 really capable people who are now being shared. And I think that model is one way to restrain spending increases but deliver the services that we need. The other thing I wanted to echo is the vibe on the select board. For 3 years, we've had a group that has gotten along very well. We don't always agree, nor should we always agree, but we managed to disagree without being disagreeable. So the sense of cooperation that has emerged in that room, and it's been 3 years, and it feels good to me, and it's something I want to continue with whichever of the 5 people here are elected, whichever 2 of you are elected. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. So I want to just repeat what one of the candidates mentioned about the dates for town meeting. Since it's not the usual date, don't forget that our annual meeting will be held on Monday evening, April 1st, 7 p.m. It is not an April Fool's joke. It's the real thing.
That's right.
And then Australian balloting will be at the Masonic Temple next door on Tuesday, April 2nd, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And the annual meeting itself will be at the Bellows Falls Opera House in the theater. I think a lot of you may have signed up. Yeah, go ahead.
People are signing up for updates, so they didn't hear you say there's a.
Yeah, I don't, if someone has an update, ask us and you can send an email out to everybody. We don't have any updates. I mean, I'm sorry.
It'd be nice to have more volunteers.
Yeah, just if you're part of the idea of getting more people to attend town meeting, I mean, I'll take 15 seconds to say, at last year's town meeting, when as a town, we were quite divided about whether to keep an in-person meeting or go to exclusively Australian ballot. And although we voted to keep the town meeting, it's really clear if we're going to have town meeting, we need to do everything we can to get lots and lots of people there, to get really strong participation. And so some of us have been thinking of different ways to do that, and a couple of, maybe small things, but the survey that the select board, specifically Rick and Bonnie, put out indicated that, there's interest in rides, and a number of people said, transportation was an issue. If they had a ride to town meeting, they could get there. And another thing was that it would be nice to have snacks or some kind of food to make it more of a sociable affair, friendly affair. So if you're willing to volunteer either to offer someone a ride or to bring some snacks to town meeting, please sign up on one of the clipboards that over there on the table with the snacks, which eat snacks on your way out. Bonnie.
Could I also tell everybody, one of the things we learned from this survey is that a lot of people would like to see town meeting during daylight hours on the weekend. So we are planning a special town meeting, which is the only way we can address this at this point, to consider that. And we haven't set the date finally, but sometime in June, there'll be a special town meeting one Saturday afternoon. So if you're concerned about that, please attend that meeting. tell folks to attend that meeting. The vote from that meeting will determine if we're gonna change to a Saturday town meeting or not. And if only 10 people come, 10 people make that decision.
So, good. All right, so I want to thank Fact TV for being here. I really appreciate you filming this. And when can people expect it? It'll be on the website, like tomorrow morning?
It's been streaming live.
It's streaming live, okay.
Like, once it's done live, it's up.
But if folks here want to go home and tell their neighbors to watch it, it'll be on the website?
Sorry, yeah.
It's already there.
Just click the news section.
Great, on the news section. Thank you so much for that. And thanks to the library for sponsoring this event. And thank you to all of the candidates for your willingness to serve us, to serve the community in such a big way. Thanks to each of you. And
Thank you.
And thank you to each one of you who came, because this is really what community is about. You are all willing to show up and show an interest in our government and our community. So thank you all for being here. And I think we probably have 10 minutes or so before we need to clear the room. And so if people want to hang around and talk, we'll eat snacks.
I've been-